Yo, what is up, guys? Today we're going to be going over a recent game I played in my league match against Lrlusher. I was in the D League, and unfortunately, in this match, I did lose 2.5 to 3.5. But anyway, we're going to be going over the games. I thought this game 4 was particularly interesting. I'm not going to say whether or not I won or lost yet. You'll have to watch the video to find out. So, let's get right into it. Alright, so it looks like this board is quite a doozy. We've got the Draw with Ranger, we've got Trashing with Plan, Miser, and Transmogrify, so I'm guessing we're probably going to be using Plan because both Miser and Transmogrify are quite slow, and we do actually have plus action, but the only plus action is Royal Carriage. And so basically it's going to be imperative if you're going to play the engine to get Royal Carriages and Secret Caves, like a lot of both, and then draw them together. Another possible strategy you could do is just go for Misers, and then just this not sure if this is super relevant, but there's pirate ships, so you can pirate ship the magic lamp if you get lucky, but I don't think you can really rely on that. The Basilica points here might actually be quite significant. So anyway, I guess the plan is we open Secret Cave, and then we trash something. We try to get an activation as soon as possible, getting a bunch of Royal Carriages, and then setting up the engine. You've got the Wishes support for Royal Carriage strategy, and you can also get a Leprechaun later on. Another thing you can do, which I didn't realize until a little later this game, is you can transmogrify animal fairs into provinces, so that could also be pretty nice. Alright, so let's get into the gameplay. My opponent puts Plan on Secret Cave, and I want to Plan too. I consider getting Plan on Transmogrify, reason being that Transmogrify is also useful for thinning, and it's also very versatile. The only problem with planning on Transmogrify is that if you buy Transmogrify turn 2, you trash an estate, and Transmogrify is really only useful for thinning estates. So I eventually decide to get Plan on Secret Cave as well. So, on turn 3, my opponent plays Secret Cave, and then buys another Secret Cave, thinning another estate. I can do the same thing here. I could discard also to get more money next turn, but I actually already have 4 coppers there, so I decide that I won't. I just thin an estate as well. My opponent does this likewise on turn 4, so now he's out of estates. And now I have 5 coin here. I could get a Royal Carriage, which might be a pretty good idea just because it's kind of what we're going for. Right now, getting a Royal Carriage with 5 seems a little bit premature because I only have Secret Caves, so that's all I'd be throning. I could also get a Ranger because I eventually want those, and then if I get a good turn, I might activate. So I decided to buy a Ranger. So here my opponent has 5, he gets a silver, getting the Basilica points. The silver is going to be pretty useful, it's going to help him hit the high price points, and it's also going to help him activate his magic lamp. Here I have an interesting decision about whether or not to discard. I could discard, getting a higher price point next turn. I know I've got the Ranger in there, so I'm probably not going to be hitting 5. In fact, I'm definitely not going to be hitting 5 next turn. So I could do that and get a Royal Carriage next turn, or I could decide to get the silver this turn to put myself closer to activation. And so this is pretty unclear actually. Now that I've got a Ranger, the Royal Carriage is actually going to be pretty useful, but I decided that I want to be able to get silver because that will also help me hit Royal Carriage. So my opponent, having thinned down all his estates, is going to play all his Secret Caves, and then he's going to hit $5, that's going to let him get a Royal Carriage. And so unfortunately I only have $3, but at least this lets me thin an estate, so I guess I'll do that. Alright, so this turn my opponent still has thinned all his estates, so that means he's going to be hitting 5 from now on. He actually gets 6, he gets a Ranger, taking the Basilica points to go with his Royal Carriage. So, right here, I'm going to play my Secret Cave, draw my other one, and looks like I got 6. I could discard and get a Royal Carriage next turn, but the shuffle's right here. I kind of want a Royal Carriage this turn, so I just buy one instead of discarding. Alright, so looking at my next hand, I could play Ranger here, or I could save the draw. If I play Ranger, I'm definitely not going to activate, which is kind of sad. I need to get all my different uniques in play in order to get an activation at this point. But, I mean, I guess I really need the cycling here. Just like, I'd basically skip a turn if I didn't hit the Ranger here. So I decided to play it. So, now I've got $8, that's enough for another Royal Carriage. I just want to increase the probability of getting all the cards I want. And so, basically, that would mean like another Royal Carriage, another Secret Cave. There's also Animal Fair, which is kind of interesting. I could get it to get more money, and so that I could afford like maybe a double Royal Carriage turn in the future. Except that would be a little difficult because terminal space is a little bit tight right now. I get another Royal Carriage, and then I do decide to get the Animal Fair. This is probably a mistake in my opinion, just because in an engine where I need to line up everything just right. The Animal Fair being an extra terminal, it's probably just not a great move by me. Alright, so here LRL is going to buy another Ranger, probably for the consistency. I think having a second Ranger is probably good, just because then you can play the Ranger to flip over your Journey token at the beginning of the shuffle, then activate at the end. So I consider discarding here, except for I already have 2 Royal Carriages right now. I think it's just a matter of lining it up at this point, and I still also kind of want another Ranger, so I decide not to discard. I'm going to call my Royal Carriage on that Ranger, just because I really can't afford to stall on coppers for another turn. So I have 8 coin this turn, and I decide that I'm going to get another Ranger and then thin a copper with Secret Cave. Alright, so my opponent here, he's going to spend his turn getting another Secret Cave and thinning another copper. So here I'm going to make a pretty big mistake. So basically I get the Animal Fair just to get the Basilica points. It's not really the mistake. And so now just watch closely what I do next. I eventually decide to get a Transmogrify here, which is probably a mistake. The Transmogrify is not the greatest card for my deck, but as you can see here, I'm already hovering over it, and it's basically already over. I've already decided in my mind that I wanted the Transmogrify, even before I actually clicked on the card. So this is like a pretty key psychological mistake. You definitely don't want to have confirmation bias. You want to think about the board from all possible angles. And I had basically already decided I was going to get that Transmogrify. I was only pretending to think more to myself. So definitely don't do that. Anyway, my opponent's going to get a pretty juicy draw here. He's actually going to activate his wishes because he had his Ranger token already face down, so he was ready for that turn. He's going to get an Animal Fair too, which might... I mean, I said it was a mistake for me, except for him, his deck might be ready for it, because he's about to get his wishes, which are going to be 3 Royal Carriages, probably. Alright, so my hand looks pretty juicy here. I Royal Carriage, Secret Cave. I go for an activation. I consider playing a Secret Cave, but I really want to activate, and sadly I don't draw my silver, so I'm not able to activate this turn. I thought it was pretty unlucky during the game, but actually I had a lot of coppers, and there was only a 1/3 chance that I'd actually be able to activate. So, that being said, since I didn't activate, I played my Secret Cave, and then I played an Animal Fair for the money. And so, now with 8 coin plus an extra copper, I finally decide to become enlightened, and I decide to get a Royal Carriage and a Secret Cave, thinning copper, which I should have done many turns ago, but now I finally did it. Alright, so here my opponent asks what would happen if he plays Royal Carriage on Wish, and if he can try it and then undo if it doesn't work. And I'm hoping he's a little off his rocker at this point because he's way ahead, and I kind of need him to make a mistake. But anyway, you know, I also give the wrong answer. I say you get an action only, but it doesn't even let you because the Wish is not in play. And so, anyway, he decides to wish for a gold, and then he decides to get a province, which I definitely think is a mistake. I think he's way ahead at this point. There's really no reason to be rushing it. But anyway, right here, I get a pretty juicy hand again. I'm really hoping for an activation here. Unfortunately, I already had that Secret Cave out, and so this is going to make it a little more difficult for me to get an activation. In fact, I should have considered this before I did it, and that Transmogrify 2 is not going to count as a card I've got in play since I can't call it this turn. At this point, I actually can't get an activation anymore since I need to call Royal Carriage on Cave for the extra action, and then I need to call Royal Carriage on Cave in order to draw. Nonetheless, even though I can't get an activation, I feel like I still have to do it because I really need the cycling, and I really should have thinned some more coppers at this point, but I didn't. So anyway, I'm just going to decide to do that. So I call Royal Carriage on the Secret Cave. Alright, yeah, so since I'm not getting an activation this turn, I'm just trying to draw as much as possible. I decide to play my Secret Cave, and here I decide to discard Animal Fair again, which is probably a mistake for the same reason, just because the Secret Cave stays out and prevents you from playing another Secret Cave and having it count as a unique. But anyway, I decide to do it, I think. Well, I think about it for a little while. Then eventually, again, the confirmation bias with me hovering over, confirm discarding, and I do it, and at least I set up my Ranger turn for next turn. I have $8 here, and I eventually decide to get a gold. Reason being, it's a unique, it's non-terminal, it's payload. I think that's not a horrible decision. I guess I could have gotten another Carriage and Cave, except for then I wouldn't have been able to thin anything, so I think it's not a horrible move, the gold. He wishes for another gold, which I definitely think is a mistake, and so then he sets up his next turn with the Ranger. Anyway, he has 6 this turn, including his gold, so he's going to get a Royal Carriage. And then he's also going to get an Animal Fair. Maybe he's playing to rush provinces with Transmogrify at this point. At this point, I think for him, rushing provinces isn't necessarily a bad move, just because, you know, I still haven't activated yet. I'm really hoping I can activate this turn, and thankfully it's looking like it, because I already set up my Ranger for the next turn. And so, I'm going to play Ranger. I'm going to lose the Journey token, except for that's okay, because at least I'm getting the Magic Lamp activation. I play Secret Cave because I already have 2 Secret Caves in play, and I discard the Ranger. I discard kind of without thinking here, but I decide that I already have way too much money with that Animal Fair, and I'm not going to go for provinces like him, and so I'm going to play the Animal Fair, and then I'm going to get my activation, which is going to be real nice. So I have $12 here, gotta think for a little bit, and I consider getting a province here, but I don't really think it's time yet. And also, because I'm ahead on the Basilica points, I'm only losing by 2 points right now, actually. Alright, so then with 13 coin, I'm eventually going to decide to get a Leprechaun and a province. This was definitely a mistake. I mean, for the reasons I just said, you don't really need the province yet, and as we're going to see later on, it's kind of going to be difficult to play Leprechaun, because the terminal space is going to be real tight, and you need to play 2 Rangers in order to draw it all, and so, definitely a mistake by me. The wishes are going to give me a bunch of royal carriages, except for, since he gets to go first with the wishes, I mean, he already spent 2 of his wishes, so I guess I can probably pick up royal carriages with all 3 of my wishes, but the terminal space is still going to be a little bit tight. Alright, so here I think my opponent is going to commit to the rush strategy on this turn. He uses his final wish, he gets a royal carriage, which is definitely the right thing to get, I think, and he puts this down his Transmogrify, and he plays an Animal Fair. At this point he can mill provinces with Transmogrify, so that's not good for me. So anyway, on my turn, I've got my Transmogrify, I've got a silver in my hand, so I guess I finally find a use for Transmogrify. I turned it into a Ranger this turn because I don't want to wish for a Ranger, and also, because this is one of the things that one of the only things that silver can be. Alright, yeah, so with this recent influx of wishes, I'm kind of going off here. I'm going to wish for a bunch of royal carriages, and it's going to be great. And so, anyway, right now I'm just trying to resolve a little turn order. I think I want to save as many of these royal carriages as I can for the Rangers, and more coming in just because I've got wishes, and so at this point I could play this Leprechaun, but then my turn's over, so that's no fun. I've got 3 wishes in my hand, and I'd basically be dudding, I think, just for one more wish, so I decided not to. I just decided to go for the royal carriages. I mean, I guess I could have played wishes before playing Leprechaun, but then my turn would have basically been over, since these wishes are definitely going to be royal carriages anyway. So anyway, I consider playing my Leprechaun here. It's true we're a little tight on terminal space, and I think that, like, flipping over Ranger takes priority. Maybe I can play Leprechaun over Animal Fair just because I'm gaining a gold, so it's going to be, like, plus $3 in every future turn. And so, I could play Wish for Royal Carriage, and then actually play all 3 of my terminals here. Though, I'd also kind of like to have a Royal Carriage on my mat just for the next turn. Here I decide about the benefits and detriments of playing Leprechaun. Here I actually think I am ahead because I'm having longer turns than him, which is usually a good heuristic. I'm not entirely sure if it was accurate this game. I look at through all the hexes that I could get, and I conclude that Poverty is the only one that could really screw me over if I played my Leprechaun. And so that's pretty good odds, 11 and 12 chance that it won't screw me over. So, after having thought about that 11 and 12, I do decide to play the Leprechaun. I think I should have played the Wish first, just in case it did screw me over. But anyway, I only get Fear, which is not so bad. I just have to discard an action or treasure. I don't even know which one I want here, except for I decided to discard the Copper, because, you know, just Copper's the worst card. I mean, I probably should have tried to set up my turn or something with an Animal Fair, but nothing I really put here is really going to set up my next turn. Unless I maybe discarded Wish. Actually, maybe I should have discarded Wish here. But anyway, I decided to discard a Copper. I wish for Royal Carriage because I want to draw. So here, unfortunately, I draw my Copper instead of my gold. So I could play Secret Cave again with Royal Carriage in order to draw my gold and also not leave a junk card at the top of my deck. I decided to discard the Animal Fair because I don't think I have enough actions. I really should have just Royal Carriage to the Secret Cave to play it again, then played both actions, not left a junk card on top of my deck, but I don't decide to do that. I decided to get a Province because I wanted to think a little before just milling too many of them. So anyway, he decides to mill the Province into a Province, and then, well, he asked for the Undo. I think he thought that he could have played Royal Carriage on those Transmogrifies in order to mill a bunch of provinces in one turn. I think maybe he thought that he was just going to win on this turn, but unfortunately you can't actually do that, so he decides to get a province. At this point I guess he has to hope for a dud by me, and fortunately for him, my hand isn't looking too great, so he just might get that dud. he gets an animal fair in order to transmogrify something into province without losing any points. So at this point, I know if I just kick off this turn, I win, so I am going to try my best to not dud. I unfortunately do draw my stop cards at the top of my deck. I think this is partially because I never fully trash. I still have a few coppers left, and so I'm going to set up my best for next turn. I decided to get a duchy instead of a province. Reason being, if I get a province, he can just mill one and then win. And when I draw my next turn, I already know that it's a dud. I don't have any non-terminal things that I can Royal Carriage. I can't even Royal Carriage because of the new errata where you have to have it still be in play, which is unfortunate. Anyway, my opponent's actually going to almost be able to end it here, except for I barely stay alive. He even gets the estate, which I'm not sure whether or not was correct. Anyway, when it actually comes to my turn, I just decide to completely go off and play all my Royal Carriages and hope that something would happen, but this is definitely not the right move. I have a lot of action cards here, and it wouldn't really work out. I consider resigning, except I realize he could still have a total dud, so I just decide to get an estate here with my $2. And so that's kind of unfortunate, but I probably should have just played the Animal Fair, maybe. I decided to replace my Leprechaun with an Animal Fair because that Leprechaun really didn't work out. And then I'm just going to end my buys and pray for a total dud here. And unfortunately for me, he's actually got a Transmogrify on his mat, and so he gets the province, and then he wins. So good game. Alright you guys, definitely a lot of takeaways from this game. I think first, at the beginning, I kind of messed up my build order. I got a Ranger on that one turn when I had $5. I could have gotten a Royal Carriage. I think I definitely had to prioritize the Royal Carriage there. And I also think you have to always think about what will increase your consistency at the moment. There is that other turn where I could have gotten a Royal Carriage and a Secret Cave and it would have been perfect, except then for some reason I decided to get something else. I don't even know. Another thing is definitely, again, the confirmation bias. This is definitely just a bad habit that I think it would do good for me to break. Don't hover your mouse over cards. This is just not good for your play. It doesn't encourage you to think about the game from different perspectives. I think also the engine usually is too fast to mill province here. I haven't actually tested it out, but I'm pretty sure you usually just always have to go for the engine if you have one. I think my opponent, he wished for the golds and transitioned to rushing provinces, but that wouldn't have worked if I hadn't dudded. So I think definitely the engine is viable here, even with the limited village support. Finally, I needed to thin a little more aggressively. I think it's easy to say, if you're going off one turn, or if you draw your deck one turn, you're probably good to go, right? You can just keep adding payload. But no, sometimes you just get lucky. For instance, in this game, I think plan was not all that great for the trashing, so I needed to keep in mind I still had these coppers that ultimately did cause the dud turns that caused me to lose the game. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to hit the like button, subscribe. Comment potato down below if you've made it this far, otherwise you'll have lots of dud turns in every game of Dominion that you play. Tomorrow I'm going to be playing my league match against Fierce Lord, so definitely stay tuned for that. I'm definitely going to be covering that, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace!